But this is, I wanted to unpack the point more as to it looks there is a healthy tension emerging between when it comes to the data assets or how you manage the data for organization. Because at one side, there is a emerging focus and acknowledgement that data is strategic as and how we can use it for better customer experience and innovation and competitive advantage, etc. At the other side, as you briefly mentioned, data also poses significant risks in today's world, particularly when it comes to managing customers' privacy, operating within customer allowed consents, operating within your risk appetite, and some of these things, and responding accountable to regulators. So, again, as a head of data function, the how do you see organizations should balance that out, enabling the innovation, etc., but at the same time doing it safely?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Look, I'm sure everyone's heard about data as a strategic asset. There's been a lot of conversation around that in recent times. I've heard people say data needs to be treated as oil. It's probably even more relevant with what's happening around us in the world at the moment and how expensive oil is becoming and how precious that is. So it's probably not a bad analogy, to think about. But what sometimes people don't realize is, and focus enough on, as you're saying, is the data can also become a liability if it is not managed properly. So, with cyber incidents, privacy laws, customer expectations, rising costs of managing security, etc., all become relevant, and therefore it's now more important than ever before to be conscious, rather than to be making conscious rather than unconscious decisions about what data you're collecting, where it is being stored and shared, who has access to the data, who owns the data, what are the risks, and more importantly, what are the controls around managing those risks and managing the data in place. And you got to look at this strategically and not just every person doing it for their own business area. It has to be up to the executives, up to the data leaders, but also up to the business leaders and the board even to be strategic about what risks are acceptable, what are unacceptable, what is the risk appetite that the company has, and then to manage the data collection, the data storage, management, and security and controls in that light, so that everything is being done as a conscious decision rather than just happening around the company, to different levels of control, depending on how the respective business leaders look at it. So it has to be driven at an enterprise level, and it has to be driven at very senior levels and communicated very clearly across the organization, which otherwise it can very fast become a liability.